Welcome to Nifty Notions with SewVeryEasy. My name is Laura, and today's Nifty Notion has a lot to do with rubber bands or elastic bands. This little notion is called a speed loom. It's often referred to as a mending loom or even a darning loom. Now, this has been around since the 1940s, but it definitely has made a big comeback. We don't need to darn socks anymore, but it is a fun thing to add on our clothing. And what we're doing is we're weaving on this little disc. This was made using a lightweight wool. This one I put inside and I used embroidery floss. They really do add a nice decorative touch to our jeans or any type of clothing. Of course, we could still darn socks with them, but this is definitely more fun. So I'm going to add a patch onto my jeans. I'm going to be using the loom, some thick gold thread, and some red embroidery floss. The fibers that you use will dictate the needles that you will use. If you're using heavier fibers, you'll need something like a darning needle. You'll need that big hole and that long needle. With the embroidery floss, I like to use soft sculptured needles. They're nice and long, and they have nice big eyes on them. I'm using two different colors, so I will be needing two needles. The directions do tell us how to do this, but it also gives us some different layouts. This is just enough to get started. After that, really, your imagination is all you need. The one that I am going to be using today is considered a small one, and it has 14 hooks. This was made by Alexandre Verne, and he's from Ukraine, and they are beautifully made. So we do have a darning disc with this little ridge all the way around it, and the loom. This and the thread and a high-tech elastic is all we're going to need. The elastic really is perfect for this project because it gives us the tension that we need. So let me show you how I'm going to add that patch, and you'll see how fun this really is. Now, of course, I could cover a hole, but I just want to put a little decoration on this corner. So I'm just going to draw a little area that I want. That's just sort of giving me a good guideline. That curved side is going to go against the fabric underneath. And that's where this elastic comes in. The fabric cannot be loose on this wooden disc, but it shouldn't be pulled tight. And we can adjust it until we get it exactly where we want. Then we're going to put on the loom. The loom has a little shelf on the back. That little shelf is going to fit an elastic. So wrap the elastic around and put it where you need it to go, and then pull that elastic down. So it's just going to go right around. So now I can see what hooks I'm going to be using. I can use all 14. I can use a few. If it's a heavy wool, I can use every other one. So I do have options. So I'm going to start with one of the colors and thread my needle. And I do have a very long piece. I'm going to start through the center, and I'm going to come out through that corner. And I'm going to come right close to the end of that floss. Now I'm going to do one more stitch right through those fibers. I want to catch that thread underneath. Hold that end and just pull all of those fibers. And when I come to the end, give a little tug, and that gives me a little knot. That little piece will just go to the back, and I can trim it off later. Now I'm going to stitch and weave. And I'm going to be using every other hook. So I can pull up that thread and decide which hook am I going to need first. I'm going to be using this hook right here. So I'm going to loop that and then fold that down just to hold it in place. And I'm going to do one more stitch along the bottom. This does not need to be a locking stitch. It's just going to hold the next loop in place. Now I want to skip one loop and go to the next. I'm going to move that one, and I'm going to work on that hook and stitch that down. I'm going to continue, move the one hook and stitch up to that next hook. And I'm going to do every other hook until I get into that area that I would like. For the last stitch, I still need to go down, and then I'm going to just come up a little bit. I will be weaving in between these fibers, so I would like this thread to be already here at the starting point. So just go down and come up a little bit. You can see where that thread will be ready to start going over. Now I'm going to do my gold. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to fill in those empty hooks. So you can see that every other hook is done. I have my threads coming out to the side, and that way when I do start weaving them, I'm in that right position. Now I'm going to weave them. I'm going to just hold that gold one down out of the way, and I'm going to start working on that red one. I still have my needle threaded with all of my thread. I'm going to have all of the hooks going in the same direction as I'm going to be stitching. So I'm just going to smooth them down. And we can smooth them in any direction that we want. This is the direction I'm going, so my hooks need to go in that direction. And we're going to weave with the eye part. And we're going to start up here at the top. It's just easier, there's more space up here. We're going to weave in between all of those fibers and pull it out. And then it's going to come down to the bottom. And I do want to put one stitch here coming up. I need to go in the other direction, so I'm going to move these so that they all are over and weave. From now on, before I take the needle out, I'm going to tamp down my previous row of stitching. And that's why a nice long needle is really helpful. Just tamp that down and pull. Do one more stitch, and now that's ready for the next row. I'm going to put the red out of the way and work on the gold. I need to change my direction. Weave this through, tamp that down, and come out. Take a little stitch, change direction, and weave. Weave that through, tamp down that last row, and come out. And finish it off with a little stitch. Grab the red and start with the red. Move my hooks, weave, tamp down, pull, and continue. Take a stitch, weave, change, tamp, continue. So let me fill this up, and I'm going to show you how pretty this really is. That last row of stitching will be very, very tight. Pull that through. So we are done that little patch. We can take off this loom now. Just release that elastic along the back. Have these little hooks come up a little bit, and then just lift it up and over. And they'll just come right off. As it is right now, this is open, so it's like a little pocket. So we're going to need to close that up. And we can take that bottom piece off to do that. Just flick that elastic off and put your threads through the elastic. Now we're going to stitch up these little threads. So I'm going to start with the red, just go right down and come up in that same loop. Move the needle over to the next red spot. And I'm just catching that top of the loop. Go back in and go to the next red, and so on. And just finish stitching the red little loops down. And put that red right into the back. And I'm going to do the same to the gold. Go in and pick up the gold. And finish the gold and put the thread through to the back. Once those threads are pulled through, I'm going to be able to just tie them together and trim them off. So there's my beginning stitches and my ending stitches. And that's all there is to finishing the back. And that's what we have for the front. So we have the delicateness of embroidery floss, or we can do some chunky wool. There are lots of different designs that you can do, and it's just a matter of weaving and just changing the direction of our hoops. Yes, of course, we can still darn socks with these SpeedWeves, but they really do make nice decorative patches for our own clothing. I'll put some links in the description so you could check this out. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. Be sure to come back and make sure every day is a Sewtacular day. Bye for now.